Let's bring in former Office of Management and Budget Director and former White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney. Great to see you, Mick. But what Janet Yellen said today is, oh, if your bank gets in trouble, then uninsured depositors will also get, be made whole, will be rescued by the federal government. What is the danger of that, of her stepping up and promising that?
Yeah, ultimately, Dagan, the risk is that banks will take more aggressive behavior, more risky behavior, because they know they're essentially too small to fail. That will lead to higher levels of regulation, which will then lead to higher levels of consolidation. Regulation is really expensive, and it actually falls disproportionately on smaller banks than it does on larger banks. So what happens is the smaller banks start to combine, the regionals start to combine. You end up with 10 or 15 really, really large banks in the country, which I think is a really bad idea. So one of the unintended consequences might be the end of the community banks, the end of regional banks, and maybe of credit unions and so forth. So, look, I don't know why we trust the Treasury Department under Janet Yellen. I don't know why we trust the Fed to make these sorts of decisions, why these extraordinary decisions they've been making sort of go unchallenged in Washington, D.C. and in New York City, because it can be very, very dangerous when no one is allowed to fail.
You know, and you and I served in Congress together, Mick, and Dagan as well. We're all from smaller communities, and the lifeblood of the American small community is the community bank. They're the ones that, you know the businesses, know the individuals, make really good loan decisions. They make the decisions in your community. That decision isn't outsourced to New York or Chicago or Dallas. And I mean, what happens when you have this consolidation? What happens to the small communities that rely on these small banks?
They get no credit. Keep in mind, what happens if you're a small restaurant, okay? You're starting a small little franchise restaurant in Lancaster County, South Carolina. Citibank is not going to bank you. Nations Bank is not going to bank you. That's not how it works. These community banks serve a very, very important role. And when you increase regulation, which is what has to inevitably come from this, again, that's sort of the next domino to fall after this decision to essentially take FDIC insurance to everybody. When that happens, it's these smaller communities in the rural South, in the Midwest, all over the country, outside of the big cities, that will be starved of the capital they need to prosper.
Mick, the bigger picture is looking at what the Fed has done in the past week. And we were talking with Tom Honig yesterday about the blowout in money printing, where the Federal Reserve took its balance sheet to $9 trillion. Just in the last week, there's been a $300 billion increase. Again, $300 billion pumped back into the financial system, which is about half of all the tightening of the money supply since last year. And it's just this phenomenon. Sean and I were talking about it. They won't let people lose money, rich people. There's this,
right.
And that, where does that take us?
Where it takes us is back to inflation. I mean, I can't believe Janet Yellen actually sat there and told all those great stories about how things are so fabulous in the country without even referencing inflation. Look, something that went unreported, I think most people missed it, that's fine. I know I'm a geek. I know I read the budget in a way that most people don't, because I wrote 3 or 4 of them. When you go in and you look at the Biden budget, in the very back under the tables, what you'll find is the long-term projections for things like economic growth, unemployment, and inflation. And keep in mind, Janet Yellen participates in this process. The Treasury Secretary helps the OMB director write that part of the budget. And that inflation never gets back to 2%. I think it stops at the lowest it is 2.3%. So what they're telling you is, what Janet Yellen's Treasury is telling you is that they are hoping that we have higher inflation forever, that they expect the Federal Reserve to give up permanently on this 2% target that they've had for the last, several decades. This is moving into a period where we think, or I think, high inflation is going to be around for a long time, and having the Federal Reserve bail out these large companies in Silicon Valley is simply going to add to the inflationary pressures.
Which, again, this is disastrous for the American family, but that can threaten the United States or the dollar as the global reserve currency. We stop having that status, and you start having all these dollars cashed back in, and the problem gets even that much more worse with inflation.
Yeah, Sean, I'm not as concerned about, I am concerned about the value of the dollar. I'm concerned about the credibility of the dollar. I'm really not concerned about the reserve currency status because there's really no other choice. Keep in mind, there's other things that factor into our status as the reserve currency, political stability, things like the legal system. Face it, the euro is not going to be the reserve currency because it could fall apart any day. The Chinese yuan is not going to be the reserve currency because it's a communist country. People used to talk about the ruble possibly displacing the dollar. That's never going to happen. So now, listen, I worry about a lot of things. I worry about debt. I worry about interest. I worry about inflation. Losing the reserve currency status in my lifetime or my kids' lifetimes is not one of the things I worry about.
I hope you're right, Mick.
The same people who were out screaming to the high heavens, calling for Silicon Valley Bank must be bailed out. The Fed has to intervene, make our deposits whole. There will be a nationwide calamity. Well, they got what they wanted. Now they're calling on Jay Powell and his cronies at the Federal Reserve not to raise interest rates again because, again, they don't want to lose money. Again, rich folks. But how do you see that playing out? Because inflation is, and Sean said, we don't want to attack the rich, but, and I'm going to borrow what Sean says, there are two sets of rules. So will Jay Powell have enough temerity and stones to keep fighting inflation?
That's a really good question. Look, I think the biggest story in Washington right now, the big story in the world right now, after maybe President Xi going to Russia this week, is the Fed meeting tomorrow. If they were really, really confident that the banking system was solid, they might raise interest rates by 50 basis points. I think they'll probably raise by a quarter point. That's what a lot of folks are talking about. That's sort of splitting the baby, saying, yeah, we still worry about inflation, but we're a little bit worried about the banking system. What really concerns me, Dagan, is on Wednesday if they don't raise at all. Because what that means in this town, again, I don't understand banking, as well as a lot of people, but I understand this town better than most. And in this town, if the Federal Reserve doesn't raise interest rates at all on Wednesday, what that's telling everybody privately is they're really scared to death about the banking system and that what they did at Silicon Valley Bank, while it bailed out some rich folks, didn't fix the system. So that's what I'll be watching in the next 24 hours.
So, Mick, I want to circle back to the start of the clips we played from Yellen. In one clip, she says, listen, everybody, the banking system is safe and sound. But then in a later clip, still today, she says, listen, don't you worry, the economy is great. How does she have any credibility? Because most Americans understand the economy is not great. They don't understand banking. But if she lies about the economy, she very well be lying to me about banking.
I'm not sure how she has any credibility left. I mean, Sean, you and I were on the Financial Services Committee when she was the Federal Reserve Chair, and she came in, and we knew back then that she was a liberal operative. She was supposedly running an independent, central bank, but we knew what she was doing was sort of tied into the Obama administration. And then, of course, she gets to be made Treasury Secretary and just proves you and me right. She was a liberal operative from the very beginning. And this is politics at the very highest level in Treasury. Of course, you would expect that from the Treasury Secretary. But how she has any credibility at all in this, I really don't know. How the Fed has much credibility. They were wrong on inflation in the first place. They were wrong on it being transitory. They were wrong on how long it would last. They were wrong, by the way. The Fed is partially responsible for SVB because they've got oversight on that. It's the OCC, the FDIC, and the Fed that regulate banks like SVB. And they missed the most basic errors on the balance sheet, which is the duration risk. So it's almost like I'll be stunned if the Fed gets it right because they've been wrong so often. But again, in Washington, D.C., being wrong every single time doesn't mean you lose credibility when you're a Democrat.
Mick, we have to run, but history is going to treat us well because back in those hearings, we were calling out Ben Bernanke about quantitative easing, printing money to juice the economy and how that was going to cause inflation. And sadly, that has come to pass. We were both right in the committee.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you have the worst bear market in treasuries ever, and you got banks sitting on treasuries. How you think that's going to end?
Yeah, Sean, I got to close with this, and I don't ever say this, but Barney Frank was right. He once told me the biggest lie in Washington is somebody telling you they hate to say they told you so, because everybody loves it. And I love the fact that you and I were right about Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen, even though the country's paying a price for it right now.
It is sad. But Mick Mulvaney, thank you for joining us, and you look great today. Thank you. You combed your hair.